How this medical illustrator was duped into creating JFK assassination false history. Medical illustrator Harold Rydberg unknowingly helped the U.S. government lie about the JFK assassination and spent the rest of his life trying to correct that lie. Naval Corpsman Rydberg at Wright was called upon to provide medical illustrations of the bullet wounds on President Kennedy. At first, it all seemed so right. Rydberg would provide tasteful schematic drawings of the wounds on JFK for presentation to the public in the Warren Report. That way, the Kennedy family would be spared the ordeal of the public seeing the gruesome autopsy photographs. And the Warren Commission would use the three Rydberg diagrams below to illustrate the wounds on JFK and link them to one shooter, Lee Oswald. The Rydberg drawings would show that JFK was struck by a bullet through his neck and a fatal gunshot to the back of his head, both fired by Oswald from above and behind. 15 years later, a second government inquiry, the House Select Committee on Assassinations, would do the same when it hired its own medical illustrator, Ida Dox. It too would dupe her into creating schematic drawings to falsify the wounds on President Kennedy. See the Ida Dox presentation on this platform. It became clear that both government inquiries into the assassination of President Kennedy were more interested in three common narratives. One, single bullet theory. 7 non-fatal wounds suffered by Kennedy and Governor John Connally were all caused by the same bullet fired by Oswald from the 6th-floor book depository window. 2, kill shot. The shot that ended President Kennedy's life was also fired by Oswald from the same window situated 60 feet up and some 270 feet behind the limousine, as you can see on the right at the top of the yellow line. 3, lone nut. Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin. There was no conspiracy, foreign or domestic. Rydberg's illustrative talents became necessary when the Secret Service illegally took possession of the president's body in Dallas in defiance of state law. Once in Washington, JFK's body was not turned over to the District of Columbia Medical Examiner's Office for the necessary post-mortem procedure. Instead, JFK's body was put in control of the military. At the Bethesda Naval Hospital, an autopsy was undertaken by 3 pathologists who had never before conducted an autopsy where death was by violent means, in this case, gunshots. Protocol was broken again 4 months later when the Navy's Rydberg was ordered to provide 3 illustrations to depict the wounds on the president's body, but was denied access to the autopsy photos to ensure accurate recreations. Instead, Rydberg was told what to draw by the head autopsy surgeon, Dr. James J. Humes, whose expertise was the study of body organs and tissues to determine cause of death by disease or natural means. It was Rydberg's drawings that Dr. Humes then presented to the Warren Commission as the official illustrative record of the wounds on President Kennedy. In turn, the Warren Report cited the Rydberg illustrations as factual representations of the wounds in order to claim that they were all caused by one shooter, Oswald, who was positioned above and at rear of the car. Harold Rydberg was critically vocal for the rest of his life about the process he was put through, even casting doubt on the accuracy of his own drawings and how they were used to misrepresent how President Kennedy died. What follows is how the Warren Commission used the three Rydberg drawings to frame Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone assassin of America's 35th president. Mission Exhibit 385 at right shows a bullet entering at the base of the president's neck that travels cleanly through his neck to exit his throat just below the Adam's apple. The Commission used illustration 385 to claim that the bullet at right, Commission Exhibit 399, was the bullet that struck Kennedy, exited his throat, and went on to cause all the wounds sustained by Governor Connally seated in front of JFK. In attributing all 7 non-fatal wounds on the 2 men to this bullet's trajectory, shown at right, the Commission was able to present its single bullet theory to explain why the Zapruder film shows Connally reacting to his wounds no later than 1 second after Kennedy reacts to his non-lethal wounds. The timing of the reactions of the 2 men proved to be problematic for the Commission because the FBI determined the Oswald rifle could not be manually fired twice in less than 2.3 seconds. Yet Connally is clearly hit before the Oswald rifle can be fired a second time, leaving only 2 possibilities. 1. Single bullet. Connally was hit by Commission Exhibit 399 at right that first struck Kennedy in the back of his neck, as shown in Rydberg's drawing, Commission Exhibit 385. Or 2 bullets. Connally was hit by a separate bullet fired almost simultaneously to the first shot, which explains why he is not yet reacting, as shown at right, to a bullet that broke 2 bones while JFK is already reacting to his neck injury. A second Rydberg drawing, Commission Exhibit 386, summarizes the 2 bullet entry wounds and the explosive head exit wound above JFK's right ear, both suggesting shots from the rear. Over the years, Rydberg encountered ample evidence that the wounds he depicted on JFK in Commission Exhibit 386 are not only inaccurate, but he also believed they conceal a second shooter at the right front of the car. Instead, the Commission used Commission Exhibit 386 to illustrate its conclusion that 1 shot missed the occupants completely and 2 shots struck JFK from behind, one that went on to hit Connally and one that hit the back of his head, ending his life. The Commission used Rydberg drawings 385 and 386 to illustrate that all the wounds on JFK were from bullets fired by Oswald from the building in which he worked. Rydberg began questioning the accuracy of his own diagrams when he read the Warren report and noticed that the Commission ignored vital medical and physical evidence in its own records that made the single bullet theory highly implausible. First, on the official autopsy face sheet at right, the point of entry is much lower than where Dr. Humes had Rydberg place the bullet entry wound in what became Commission Exhibit 385. So here on the right, this is where the bullet entry wound is, which is in the upper back. But the Rydberg diagram shows the bullet entry wound at the lower base of the neck. Both of them cannot be correct. The autopsy report itself and the autopsy report by FBI agents assigned to record the autopsy findings in real time both describe the bullet entry wound on JFK to be located 5 3/4 inches below the collar line and just to the right of the spinal column. This places the bullet entry wound in the upper back, not the lower neck, as shown in Rydberg's Commission Exhibit 385. However, the Commission needed the JFK entry wound to be higher than the exit wound at his throat, as seen in Commission Exhibit 385. So it could say the bullet penetrated JFK from above and continued downward to strike Connally and cause all his wounds. The upper back bullet wound was verified by JFK's shirt and suit jacket at right, which show a bullet entry wound in the back that matches the autopsy face sheet and the FBI autopsy report, not at the base of the neck depicted in Rydberg's Commission Exhibit 385. This means the bullet wound would need to travel upward inside JFK, as seen at right, to exit at his throat. Yet Rydberg's Commission Exhibit 385 shows a necessary through and through downward trajectory to exit Kennedy before continuing on to hit Connolly. Even more stunning, the two matching autopsy reports require that upon exiting JFK's throat in upward flight, as shown at right, the bullet must then make a sharp downward turn in mid-air to strike Connolly near his right armpit. Rydberg's Commission Exhibit 385 drawing inaccurately validated the Commission's single bullet theory and its lone gunman theory. So here we have in this diagram, the bullet must travel upward inside President Kennedy's body despite not hitting any harsh substance, and so that it can exit at the throat just below the Adam's apple. Another problem in the official autopsy report suggests that Dr. Humes purposely duped Rydberg into misrepresenting the wounds in Commission Exhibit 385. The FBI autopsy report states, during the latter stages of the autopsy, Dr. Humes located an opening, which appeared to be a bullet hole, which was located below the shoulders and 2 inches to the right of the middle line of the spinal column. This opening was probed by Dr. Humes with the finger. Further probing by Dr. Humes determined that the distance traveled by this missile was a short distance, inasmuch as the end of the opening could be felt by the finger. Yet when Colonel Pierre Fink, at right, attempted to dissect this upper back wound to confirm a shallow entry, he was abruptly ordered by military superiors in the autopsy room to stop this routine procedure. We still don't know why. If Rydberg's Commission Exhibit 385 diagram is not accurate, then the single bullet theory falls apart, which means there had to be at least 2 gunmen in Dealey Plaza, not just Oswald. The final drawing by Harold Rydberg, Commission Exhibit 388, again shows the rear neck wound to be too high when compared to the 2 autopsy reports and JFK's clothing. It also more tastefully depicts the explosive exit wound of the JFK fatal headshot. But how accurate is it? Before he died in 2017, Rydberg claimed that he had seen enough evidence to discredit his own drawings and was anguished that they were used in the Warren Report to frame Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone assassin of JFK. He had to have been shot from the grassy knoll, Rydberg claimed, in defiance of his own artwork. Truth still eludes Harold Rydberg and all of us. In 1987, Rydberg told a local newspaper in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, "They're my drawings. The whole Warren Report that Oswald acted alone is based on the 3 drawings I did. That's why I can't let this alone." For Rydberg and historical truth, we can't leave this alone. The manipulation of Harold Rydberg to misrepresent the wounds on JFK's body via his 3 diagrams must be a focus of any new inquiry into President Kennedy's death. The next illustrator must be allowed to provide artwork based on access to the authentic autopsy photos.